This was my former home for 5 years. This is very hard because this is the first time I've been back to this house since we sold it in 2001. This is the main driveway here, which it starts at the top there. We used to have many cars sitting on the driveway. Ferraris, Bentleys, Phantoms, Porsches. Mr. Young had a different car for each day of the week. What I find hard looking at this today is that, you know, not only my ex-husband, but he was the father of my 2 girls. Why he did this, I don't understand. It's complete betrayal.
What do you miss about being here?
Everything. I used to wake up every day and feel very privileged, you know, to wake up here, because it was a wonderful house, happy memories of my daughters, running around playing with the animals, and we used to go and pick strawberries in the garden. You know, it's very hard. It's memories that I kind of parked.
It's very hard to give up.
Who said I've given up? This isn't over yet.
For Michelle, the divorce has meant radically downsizing. She's gone from a mansion to a basement flat.
Good morning. Guys, do you mind taking your shoes off before we start? Right. Sorry, we just recently moved in, so it's quite chaotic still. My daughter's kindly offered to put a little bit of makeup on because I almost work 24/7, so she does not want to be filmed, so can we cut here?
The flat is shared with one of her grown-up daughters. They live among the remnants of their former life.
And what did you end up with?
0. The judgment order that I received in November 2013 was an empty paper bag because I've never received a penny.
And how much was it supposed to be?
For 26.6 million.
Despite the court order, Michelle's husband simply never paid up. And then there were Michelle's legal fees. She'd taken out high-interest loans to pay for the years of litigation.
How much do you think you ended up spending on fees?
It was over 6 million in hard cash, and 10 million was on the interest charged. So you're speaking about 16 million. In fact, it was nearly 17 million pounds.
So you ended up with debts
Of 17 million, yes.
Michelle had been banking on the divorce settlement, paying off the loans. She's now bankrupt. I wanted to know why she was still pursuing the money.
The fact is, it's 10 years now, isn't it?
Yes.
Since you first filed for divorce.
Correct.
And,
Yeah.
you still seem to be on the case, battling.
Battling, it's a very big battle. It's a war, in fact.
Most people would have given up by now trying to find the money.
Absolutely not. It's never entered my mind. It's not even a discussion. That was taken when we actually were living in Miami. It was a difficult time. We was having problems with the marriage, and we just thought we'd have a fresh start somewhere else. What he was actually doing at that time, he was planning to do other things. He was having many affairs during the marriage.
Who were the affairs with? What sort of women?
Supermodels, young women, beautiful young women. One day I had a phone call to say, your husband has been having an affair, he's lost all the money, and he's now in the Priory. And, you know, I came off the phone shocked. I had the girls with me. I was actually in my bedroom at the time. And the first thing that I said, this isn't true. That phone call is the turning point in our lives.
Michelle and the girls flew back to the UK. She petitioned for divorce, and so began the first round of a 7-year fight. In one corner was Michelle, convinced her husband was worth hundreds of millions of pounds. In the other was Scott, claiming he'd lost everything in a big Russian property deal and that he was bankrupt.
I was sitting there one day with an ex-Scotland Yard detective. As one does. And he said, is there anything he's given you? And I said, and I said, well, actually, yes, the girls have got 2 laptops. He said, well, have you thought about having those analysed? Within 3 days, he found a folder within the laptop, and on there was Project Marriage Walk.
Project Marriage Walk?
Yeah.
That was his plan?
That was his plan, yeah.
He'd been planning this for a while?
Absolutely. So there you will see list of the properties and assets of just under 400 million, with him as a legal and beneficial owner.
And he was saying he was penniless?
And he was saying he was penniless, yes.
5 years after Michelle's crusade began, and her case was a mess. She'd spent millions on an army of lawyers and private investigators, and she was convinced Scott was hiding money.
We're in. Got you.
One of the investigators Michelle hired was Di Davis. Di arranged for an undercover team to follow Scott.
He almost looks as if he thinks he's under surveillance there. He always had huge wads of banknotes, high denomination. And so whenever he actually got near his wallet, you could actually see the bulge and the colour of £50 notes. Well, look at that now. It's on the video there. You can see that he's just taken out a fairly substantial wedge of £50 notes there. The courts perpetually allowed him to continue to evade telling the truth for years, until eventually a sensible judge said, well, you're going to prison. But unfortunately, the same sensible judge allowed him out again without telling us anything, which doesn't make him quite so sensible.
He never told?
No. And one has to ask why. That's a big question, really. I wouldn't want to go to prison.
Scott served 3 months of a 6-month sentence. When he came out, he caught the bus home. As for Michelle, she borrowed yet more money and hired yet more lawyers, and went on with her fight. The judge at the final hearing said Scott had hidden assets, but as hard as he tried, the judge couldn't locate the hundreds of millions Michelle maintained existed.
When you walked away from court, how did you feel?
I felt devastated.
The court awarded you 26 million, but that wasn't enough as far as you're concerned.
No, it wasn't what was actually in the estate. The judge said that I would probably never get paid.
He was awarding you the money, nevertheless?
Yes. So...
But knowing you'd probably never find... ever.
So what is the point of court proceedings? I had to fight tooth and nail for 7 years in the family courts to have an award which was ignored. Please tell me how that's justice.
For 8 long years, Scott stuck to his story that he had no money.
Do I have your word that you're on your own at the moment?
Yes, I am on my own at the moment.
Then one day, he called Michelle with an extraordinary offer.
Listen, I fucked it up in the end completely. I put my hands up and I actually apologised to you, okay? You were a very good wife. You used to run me above, make me tea, you're always there for me, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Michelle, the judge has awarded you £20 million.
But can I just stop you there?
Sure.
It's called fraud and misrepresentation.
And if I had £20 million tomorrow, would you be happy? Yes or no?
How would you? What would this money come offshore? Where would this money be magicked from?
I will get cracking on a couple of ventures. Okay.
Scott, can I ask you what happened? But why didn't you? Why didn't you answer the questions in the call? Why didn't you? No, hold on, no. I'm entitled for a wife in a very long marriage that worked equally as hard. Equality.
Listen, I'm using 20. Okay, let's just say 25 because it's a nice round number. Okay.
Well, no, I don't want 25. I'm not having a round number of 25. It's about 30 million. How would
you do a fucking deal, or do you not want to do a deal?
Do you think this is fair, what you're offering me?
If you get 30 million plus 50% of any asset you find, 100, how can you ask for any more than that? After
billions of pounds being hidden, and I've got the evidence.
Well, listen.
No, it's disgraceful. I tell you what, the other option is press criminal charges and also bring HMRC in.
Okay, you're going to end up a sweet fuck all. Okay, Michelle, on that basis, it's a waste of time. I've tried to be nice, sign up for 30 million quid to get rid of this. So you think about it and never threaten me again, please. Okay, bye.
For a family torn apart by divorce, the phone call represented the last chance for 2 parents to end their war. But Scott and Michelle never settled, and they never spoke to each other again.
It's emerged a man who died after falling from a 4th-floor penthouse onto a set of railings in Marylebone on Monday was the property tycoon Scott Young.
Scott's tragic death remains shrouded in mystery. At the inquest, the coroner recorded an open verdict, saying there was no evidence of an accident, suicide or foul play.
This case has been screaming fraud from day one, and now implicated in that is probably a murder.
There are a number of theories about why Scott died, but it's widely believed that his death was connected to the way he'd apparently been making his money. It's said that in later years, Scott may have been money laundering for his Russian business partners and was caught up in a web of criminality. It certainly would explain why he refused to disclose his finances to the court and why he was prepared to go to prison. It may not have been all his own money.
This fraud is huge, like we all do.
Of course, Scott did eventually offer Michelle £30 million in the phone call. But there are new claims that the hundreds of millions she's spent all these years chasing never actually existed.
Well, we'll soon see if it's another stitch-up. It's called Shadow Courts.
Scott's death has made Michelle's pursuit of the money even more difficult. But 11 years on, she has far from given up and continues to pursue a number of leads.
Look, they have no look. Yeah.
Recently, she discovered Scott had a life insurance policy. It was taken out long before they separated, and Michelle is a beneficiary.
I'm prepared for them, whatever it takes, and I'm here to win the war, and I will.
She's having to go to court to stop the money going to her creditors.
I tell you what could be interesting if we found out who the witness is and what evidence they've got. That. Yeah, it's exactly. Bye. Morning.
Michelle has always maintained her fight isn't just about her case. These days, she's immersed herself in what she sees as a bigger battle.
And I have to say, there is major injustice happening to families day in and day out. And I'm campaigning for these people to have justice.
Okay, I will read all of that, taken on board. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thanks very much.
My name's Michelle Young. I have my own foundation where mainly women and children are being left destitute by the family courts. It is atrocious. They're being sectioned, imprisoned with gagging orders after they've stolen their children. The case is it's women and children through the family courts who are losing their children, never seeing their children again.
Could you pass this to all the taxi drivers?
To this day, Michelle has never received the £26 million she was awarded, though she did receive £300,000 from Scott's life insurance policy. As for the future, the £17 million of bankruptcy debts still hang over her.